We spoke last week about the blessing over Biur Chometz, over the searching for the Chometz and over the burning of the Chometz. Here, in general, in Judaism, we have three different types of statements that we make. One is brachos, blessings. The second is tfilos, is the prayers that we recite. And then third is just general declarative statements. They're few and far between, but we have a number of them. And with Pesach, we bump up against one of them. And that is the declaration of Bitul Chometz, where we nullify the Chometz, which is what we spoke about on Friday evening. But this, when we come to declarative statements, it's different than brachos. Blessings, you don't necessarily need to know what you're talking about. You should know what you're talking about, but it's not critical. You should have an idea. Right? When it comes to tefillah, right? Most of us don't know every word in the siddur, but we know we're praising God, a little more, a little less, but we understand that concept. That itself is called tefillah. One area, though, that you have to understand, otherwise it's meaningless, is when you make a declarative statement. And that is Bitul Chometz. When we're going to say, Kol chamira v'chamira de'ikla v'mishusi, de la chamite, de la vi'arte, de la yidana le libada v'le v'hefke kafar dara. Okay, that is written in what language?
Aramaic.
Aramaic. Now, if you're not familiar with Aramaic, and you make this statement, it's worthless. Because it doesn't mean anything. If you ask somebody, what does it mean? Well, I'm saying some type of prayer to God. Okay, it's not a prayer. It has nothing to do with God. Right? The statement is simply, it is a financial declarative statement. Right? And it means in English, any chometz or leaven that is in my possession, which I have not seen, have not removed, and do not know about, should be annulled and become ownerless like dust of the earth. You cannot declare something, you cannot make a financial transaction if you don't understand what you're saying. Right? That's in halacha. It's by that it has to do with in business as well. You have to have a knowledge of what you're accomplishing or what you're saying. And therefore, it's far more advantageous either to use a siddur that has word-for-word translation or to say it in English. It's not a prayer. There's no advantage of saying it in Hebrew or saying it in Aramaic because it's not a tefillah. It's not a prayer at all. It's simply a statement of financial. At night, we're going, after we finish searching for the Chometz throughout the home and our business, whatever we're doing that evening, we make the statement, any Chometz that I don't know about. And then as a safeguard, the next morning, after a few minutes after we burn the Chometz, we again repeat this statement, except here we add Chometz that I know about and Chometz that I don't know about. So we make this statement twice, once by night after B'dika, searching, and once by day after we burn the Chometz. That is an insurance policy to ensure that you don't forget it. But this is actually one of the most important statements of the year that you can make. It's not a prayer, but this is what will absolve you from chas v'shalom violating any area of Chometz that might have been left out. And as we said Friday night, basically this takes on two aspects. It says, I don't want it, and it says it's annulled in dust of the earth. So therefore you're transferring it out of your property. Interesting in halacha, Bitul Chometz only works prior to the 12th hour, or midday. Once the midday comes already, then the Torah itself, that will no longer help. Bitul Chometz, and the only way to rid yourself of that Chometz, or the obligation at that point, is to actively burn and destroy the Chometz. And therefore, on Passover, if you find Chometz, in either case, when you find Chometz on Pesach, chas v'shalom, you are that you did not sell, you're obligated to burn that Chometz, and Mizrat Hashem will discuss that at a different time.
I have a question. So, if the ketubah is declarative, and if it's written in Aramaic, why is it the custom for the signatures of the witnesses to be only in Aramaic and for it not to be read in English?
Okay. So, when I do the weddings, you can ask John, when I do the weddings, you have to explain. The rabbi's responsibility is to explain to the chassan, the groom, and to the witnesses what they're signing. So I explain to them in English what they're signing. The reason that we, if you ask me, is it absolutely an obligation to keep the tradition in Aramaic? The tradition has been, and that's why we keep it.
Yeah, I'm asking both ways.
But I do, be honest with you, this is in the wedding I did just recently. So by the wedding there, I did have English translation, and there I did make sure that the English translation was authentic, so that it did reflect what was in the ketubah. right? I'm not 100. It's questionable a little bit both ways. You can raise questions both ways. But it has to be without question, the bride and groom have to understand the ketubah. And the witnesses that are signing on it have to have an understanding of what it is. It is better for the witnesses actively to be able to read the ketubah. That could be as a problem, because the witnesses are trusting me, which is not so simple. So the witnesses are more important, really, in terms of that. In terms of that area. But you're correct. The reason why it's read in Aramaic at the wedding is because you're just buying time. It doesn't really mean anything. There's no ketubah. In Europe, it's interesting. In America,
so the reading has no halachic significance?
No, absolutely none.
Right. It's an honor. But
It's an honor. What's interesting, this will close it. It's interesting, in Europe, who read the ketubah? The shamish, the sexton. So nobody. It was just simply meant as a break between the chuppah, between the first blessing and the second blessing, what we call the erusin and the kedushin, the giving of the ring, and then the 7 brachos of the Shar brachos. In America, it's become like the second biggest honor that you give at the wedding. The rabbi, one rabbi gets this, and the other rabbi gets this. But it's just interesting. History often is a very interesting point, how it plays itself out. Everybody should have a fantastic day. We'll begin at 9:15 our class on Pesach.